Iria, it's really lovely to have you on She Can today. Tell us a little bit about who you are and what you do.
Right, so I'm Iria. I'm currently a boarding house mistress and teacher of Spanish at Worth School. I'm Spanish, and as you can probably hear from my accent. My journey to here has been quite interesting, I would say. I have actually had many hats in my life. I went to uni back in 2005, and I studied translation and interpretation of languages, which I loved. I have always loved languages, but it was a bit pushed by my family because they didn't think actually education was the way forward. So I actually did a 5-year degree, and to find out that I hated to actually be sitting in an office just working with my computer. So then I basically asked for a bursary, and I ended up working in a school in the Caribbean as a language assistant, which was fantastic, and that made me realize that I really wanted to be a teacher. So I spent, I would say, half of my stay in the Caribbean doing applications for schools in the UK that would take me as a language assistant, and a crazy school just offered me a job as a teacher with no experience, and that was 7 years ago. So I worked in an all girls grammar school. And after that, I just jumped onto Worth as I'm saying, boarding house mistress and teacher of Spanish.
Amazing, Iria. Thank you for sharing that. What
Mhm.
motivates you to do this job?
So it's a bit of everything, I would say. To start with, the bit that really motivated me to do this job was actually my own teachers when I was at school. I was really, really lucky to be in a school where I had young teachers. We had this very clear vision about what a human being should look like. And I always felt connected somehow to the students. I haven't had an easy life, I would say. I haven't had an easy upbringing. I lost my dad when I was 1 year old. So I had to become quite sort of mature for my age. And I think nowadays what happens is that I just, without sharing obviously too much with the students, I just want to offer them everything that I've learned in order to help them grow. So I do love working with the girls, and I think the most important part for me is when they, because of a conversation with you, they actually try to do something differently. And even though they might not be successful, is the fact that you can influence them, and you can help them make better decisions, and empowering them basically.
I'm sure you do that all the time, Iria. Thank you for sharing that. I think you have an enormous influence on the girls in your house, and we're very grateful for that. Iria, what would you say you have that makes you successful in your field?
I think I still remember the struggles of being a teenager. I still remember how conflicted you are, how you are in two different worlds where you want to be an adult, but you're not yet an adult. So I would say that I am able to put myself to their level and then have a conversation where I act as a coach rather than do what I say. I try to also make them understand the reasons behind it, or when I give them advice, what type of advice I'm giving them and why I'm giving it to them. And I would say is that the main message I always send is treat everyone how you would like to be treated, because if you're going with your heart, in spite of you might get it wrong and you might still upset the person, you're still going with your heart. And I think um, there's nothing wrong really with kind of being um, sensitive and show it. I think that's the way forward. At the end of the day, we are human beings full of emotions, and it's about navigating through them and understanding them.
Absolutely. Having the right to be vulnerable. I think that's a really big
Yeah.
power actually for girls.
Definitely, because I think we are always labeled as sensitive or emotional, but in a very negative connotation. And I don't think I don't think that's right. I think yes, we're full of emotions, and we actually have the maturity to talk about them, and that needs to be used as a tool that empowers us rather than something that we need to feel ashamed for.
Oh, thank you for saying that. I couldn't agree more. And I think this is a lot of things. What is wrong in this world right now is exactly that point. And girls and women have to be able to be true to themselves, right?
Mhm. Exactly, exactly. Um, and at the end of the day, what I see really is that I am surrounded by women who really wear many hats, and they wear those hats so successfully. They have uh, professional careers, they have families, and I think that's something that when you put everything together really shows you how powerful we are. So I think the main message is to stop kind of shaming ourselves for um, having emotions, because if anything, I think those are the emotions that actually bring the energy to be able to do everything that we are able to do.
Mm, that was my next questions. What would your top tips be for women?
I would say I know it's a bit cliche, but I think we do really need to empower each other rather than pointing the finger one to another. It's about celebrating our successes and understanding the success of another woman doesn't mean that I'm not being successful, that we can all be successful our own way. So that would be probably my first tip. Instead of trying to shaming other women for the decisions they make, just accepting them and just kind of hold their hands and just move with them ahead. Um, and just, yeah, that would be probably the main one.
Thank you. Iria, where do you see yourself in 5 years' time?
That's an interesting question. I would actually like to keep progressing in my career. I would probably like to become a deputy head pastoral at a either British school or international school. Just because I feel that when you want to see change, you need to be part of the change. So that's really what I want to do. I would actually like to have a family. So let's see if in 5 years' time we meet again and I just achieve that.
I'm sure you will, Iria. Thank you so much for sharing your story. It's a powerful story, and thank you for doing what you do.
Thank you so much for inviting me.